Check Podcasts.
Hi, I'm Bruce Williams. I'm the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce. And welcome to Chamber Chats, coming to you as always from here in the podcasting facilities at the Czech Media Group, one of our chamber champions. We are located here in the lands of the Lekwungen-speaking nations, known to us today as Kosapsum and Songhees. And all of this is made possible by the support of Island Savings, a division of First West Credit Union, who are changing what banking can do for people, for community, and for the world. We at the Chamber, of course, are the voice for business. We keep an eye on things that are going on between governments and businesses between each other. And we try to honor people very often who have a key role in making sure that our business community is as robust as it can be. And as a part of our business awards every year, we appoint a recipient of something called the Award of Distinction. And that's a person who has made a positive impact on the economy, on business, and on our community, which perfectly describes my guest today, who is this year's recipient of that award. And that's Cathy Scott from Departures Travel. Hi, Cathy.
Hi, Bruce.
It's actually departures and niche. So we'll ask that question we ask of everybody. So you meet somebody for the first time, and they say, what do you do? You say, oh, I operate departures and niche travel. And then they say, what is that? How do you answer them?
Well, Niche Travel is my corporation, actually, and it's my original parent company, and it is specializing mostly in inbound luxury tourism of Vancouver Island. So people coming here looking for a unique, authentic experience, and we put those together for them. And it also facilitates women's travel around the globe, which I personally host some of those trips and have a great time with all the women. And then Departures Travel is also under that umbrella. And it is a full service travel agency, mostly servicing people on Vancouver Island who are looking for more help with their trips. They're looking for those bucket list trips like African safaris or wanting to know exactly what kind of cruise to go on, people that are looking for a little bit more assistance.
Yeah, so that means that you're a part of the economy. You run a successful business. But the part of this that I always love is the community part of it. You've been involved in so many different things to support the community in that way. Tell me about some of your favorites.
Well, there's been lots over the years. I've worked quite a bit with Visions Auction, helping support the local hospital foundation, looking for unique experiences to be able to donate for the auctions. I've worked with a number of women's local charities. I'm part of the founding members of 100 Women Who Care, so that's something that meets 3 times or 4 times a year, and creates wealth for local charities that don't otherwise get donations. There's many things.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing all that. And again, that's such a huge part of this recognition that you're getting from the chamber. When you and I first connected on one of these podcasts, it was during the pandemic, when obviously yours and the tourism sector in general was just completely upside down. But you did some pivots to stay lively during that time. Let's talk about that. Remind me what you did.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on during that time because it really helped. It helped the team. It helped me feel like I was actually doing something. But one of the things that we created was something called mystery departures because obviously we couldn't travel anywhere out of the country anymore at the initial stages, and so we created the ability for people to give us a budget, let us know what kinds of things you like, and then we would just create a mystery tour for them, mostly in BC at the time. Then, of course, that got shut down and we couldn't do that anymore. So then we created something called Departures Lounge, and we were doing weekly podcasts and showcasing various vendors from around the globe. We had people from Scotland on, India on, lots of different cruise lines that just showcased travel and kind of gave people a bit of a travel feel, an armchair traveler, if you will, experience. So that was a couple of things that we did.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it would come back at some point. We just didn't know when. We didn't know what it was going to look like. So again, that's something else that you did it really was a sense of well-being for a lot of people to participate that. So again, congratulations on being the recipient of the Award of Distinction. Compare 2019 to now that we've come through the pandemic. We've worked through all those changes and the pivots, if you will. But tell me about the world of travel now compared to 2019 or 2018.
Well, I think when everything stopped, it was just like a tap turned off. And then when it came back on, it was like a fire hose. So it's been pretty crazy. I would say the biggest change between post-pandemic and pre-pandemic is that people are looking for more assistance with travel now. So people, I would say there's more people going to travel agencies than there were pre. Um, People are wanting that little bit of security when they're away if something does happen, because even now global situations are constantly changing. Laws are changing. Airlines are changing. They're really changing.
Yeah.
So they're looking for that security and knowing that if something was to go sideways, they've got somebody at home taking care of them. So
Yeah.
that's what we do.
We're going to unpack a little bit of that as we get through this conversation today. The term that came out that struck me throughout the pandemic recovery was revenge travel. People suddenly went, "Oh my God, we can travel again. Let's go." Is that still a thing? Is that a part of what you're seeing now with people engaging more with adventures?
I think that slowed down a little bit, especially since in the last couple of months. What we're still seeing though is that when people are traveling, and people are still going, we're a little bit down right now, but um, not substantially. Um, is that they're taking multiple trips in one trip. So people are going and saying, and I'm doing the same thing actually. I'm already over in Europe, so why not do another country or two while I'm there? So there seems to be a trend to taking longer trips, and maybe not taking as many, not leaving as many times out of Canada in a year, but when they're gone, they're staying longer.
I guess the thing that I'll call it the elephant in the room is our relationship with the United States and how that whole travel dynamic is changing. We're going to talk about that next. Our guest today on Chamber Chats is Cathy Scott. She is the recipient of this year's awarded distinction from the Chamber of Commerce and our Business Awards, and she operates Departures Travel and Niche Travel. So, we talked to the airports and we talked to people that are traveling back and forth on ferries to the United States. Travel by Canadians to the States is falling. It's dropped drastically. Tell me about what you hear every day.
Well, we follow it obviously pretty closely. Luckily for my agencies, it's not a big focus for us. We've never done a ton of travel into the States. But for those clients that did call us to travel into the States, we have very few doing that now. And when they are, they're apologizing, which is kind of funny. I know we're saying no judgment, even if that's what you need. But we are seeing a huge trend to people not even wanting to go into the States on a flight. So normally we might route them through Seattle or somewhere in the States to get somewhere else if the fare is better, but they're not doing that now. They're saying, nope, not doing it. And I mean, last I was just looking at some stats, 70% down for air travel, pre-booking of air travel into the States. So that's substantial.
That's a big hit to the airlines, but at the same time, our domestic carriers, Air Canada, WestJet, Porter, others can reroute to different parts of the world and certainly cross Canada travel too. Is that happening?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're looking at some new destinations, which is great. We're a little excited, hoping that maybe they'll start to go a few more direct routes from here, which would be really nice. People do like that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
we've seen new things emerge, like there's a direct Porter flight from here to Ottawa now. So
Mhm.
that sort of stuff is starting to build up. And I'm trying to think of an undamaging way to ask this question, but have you heard from anybody who's had a bad border experience, either going to or coming back just because of all of this mayhem that's going on?
Right, right. Not our direct clients. Thankfully, we haven't had anybody have that, but I certainly have, following different podcasts and whatnot, because we have to keep an eye on what's going on. And there definitely seems to be a trend. I mean, it's certainly not everybody that it's happening to, but I guess the hard part for people is, what if you're that person? You get across, and what if you're that person? And that's especially if you're routing through to go to another destination. And you got stopped at the border and couldn't go. It could ruin your whole trip, right? But I
Mm.
mean, that would be a minor thing compared to being incarcerated, I suppose.
Yeah. There's the usual stuff that was always going on. People would go to Palm Desert, they would go to Arizona, they would go to New York, they would go to the usual places. They're not doing that now. Where are they going instead?
Wow. I mean, people are going further afield. We're definitely seeing a lot more Mexico than we have for quite some time. And they've really picked up on that trend. I can see a lot more ads coming from Mexico to us, right now. They're heading to Europe. It's not that far. If you were going to go to New York, that's a 5-hour trip. Um, and generally longer than that, because you have to go to Vancouver first, and now they're going to Paris, or they're going to somewhere in Europe. So it's not stopping people from traveling, they're just not going there.
Yeah, because there's other flights, like you say, are over the top of the world. They're kind of over Greenland instead of going directly across. And that flight, I'm trying to think, Amsterdam is like 7 hours or something from here, right? Seven or eight?
Yeah, it's really not that far when you think about it,
Yeah.
right? I always like to say one martini past.
Do you see this changing? Do you think we're ever going to come to a point where we're going to be getting along a little better with the states? And that's not a political question. It's just
Mhm.
what's going to have to be the dynamic within your business to see that start to happen again?
Wow, that's a really good question. I mean, a security aspect for our clients. I mean, personally, just me personally, I'm not comfortable sending our clients somewhere that they might have an issue. I think also our dollar has to get better or theirs has to get worse, one of the two. I mean, we are seeing a nice trend there right now. But that, between the political tensions and the dollar being what it is, we're just better off to go other places where our dollar is better and we're feeling safer.
When you talk about inbound people too that you're bringing here to experience British Columbia and Vancouver Island, we have heard anecdotally that a lot of Americans don't really understand that they get 35 points on their dollar when they come here. Do you find that?
Yeah, it is funny because we do have to tell people, well, first of all, we do have to charge a GST to them coming here. So there is that little bit on top. But they're often pleasantly surprised when we charge their credit card and they're expecting whatever that price is. And then they look and it's so much less. Yeah, I don't think that they really get it
Yeah.
most often.
So I want to focus in on that niche you talked about women's travel, because as we all know, the world is not always a terribly safe place for women to travel on their own or in a group. But you've taken advantage of that and you've created this really cool circumstance. So tell me about that.
Well, typically it's around 12, sometimes 14 women that we take on trips, mostly around 12. And we just go everywhere. And it's a combination of married women whose husbands maybe aren't interested in that destination or don't like to travel for whatever reason. Um, and single women that are whether widowed or just single by choice. Yeah, and it's just a group of women who get together, and I think there's about I don't know how many, a couple thousand on our database now, and quite often they end up meeting other women, like-minded women on a tour, and then say, "Hey, where are you going next?" And they just end up booking again. So it's really great.
Yeah.
It's a
Is it?
lot of fun.
Oh, I bet it is. Are there a couple of favorites for that cohort where they like to go repeatedly?
No, actually, none of us really want to do repeated trips. Most of us want to do something new all the time. I mean, having said that, we generally do a trip to Italy every year, but then it'll be something different. Um, and we're starting to incorporate a little bit more cruising in right now because the dollar value is just so much better, and river cruising is becoming very popular. So we're doing a little bit more of those, whereas we always used to just do land based. So it evolves as our women evolve and their tastes change.
So the inbound stuff, let's talk about that. When you're bringing people to tour British Columbia or Vancouver Island, what sort of experiences do you show them?
Well, the really cool thing is that I was born and raised in BC and born in the Royal Jubilee Hospital here, actually. So being a local Victorian, I know a lot of people here and a lot of the local experiences, and so does my team. And so we're able to give them things that you'd never access from if they were coming from another country or working with a agent there. So things like we work with local chefs and work with local purveyors of all sorts of experiences, whether it's the little chocolate shop or the ice cream store. Um, and we're able to take them into just really unique local things that maybe only locals would normally know about.
Yeah. How do they find you?
Well, Google. We show up on Google. I mean, yeah, word of mouth is a big one. And also, we belong to a consortium, which so they know about us, meaning it's an buying power for agencies. So they know that we've been vetted as an agency that they can use. And so there's quite a few agents there that know about us.
Yeah. Is there a place on Vancouver Island that more often than not gets the big wow thing, like people going, "Oh my gosh, look at this"?
Inner Harbor,
Oh yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
because you just don't expect, especially if you fly in on a float plane, it's kind of mind-boggling when you think about it. We're used to it, but when you fly in and it's so small and you're coming down, you're looking at these beautiful buildings, it's pretty surreal. And then, of course, Tofino, Long Beach is, it's still so unknown on the world scene, and it's just so gorgeous.
Yeah. It's still touches my heart. I used to visit there before I lived on Vancouver Island, but
Yeah,
I'd come from big flat old Ontario and come out here and see that and go, oh, okay, I get it.
it's
That's why you live here. Another dynamic that you guys work with is helping people plan a family trip, and I want to talk about that next. Our guest on Chamber Chats today is Cathy Scott. You're a CEO as well. You're the Chief Experience Officer. Is that right?
it's Chief Exploration Officer.
Exploration Officer. There we go. With departures and niche travel. Um, Traveling with a family can be an interesting dynamic for people depending on the age of the kids, whether it's traveling with young kids, teenage kids, or traveling with seniors or with your parents. Tell me about things you need to know before you plan those kinds of trips.
Well, I think one of the big things we've seen with our clients is keep it a little bit slower paced than something that if as a bunch of adults going, you love sort of the hype of travel and going here and there, but have some slower experiences. Make sure to get a kitchen. It's kids don't want to sit in restaurants all the time, especially little ones. They want to just be able to unwind at the end of the day, and really get the kids involved in the process of choosing where you're going to go and picking those experiences. Because the more engaged they are in that experience, the more fun everybody's going to have.
All the people that would have gone to Disney in the past little while, like it was really busy in Victoria over the March break. Like everybody stayed home. Nobody went to Disney. Where were they going instead of Disney? Was that again a European thing, or were they going staying in Canada?
Yeah, we I would say that Mexico
Mm,
has been big for families because you can go to an all inclusive fairly reasonably. Um, and safely if you're going, to a good destination. And Europe for sure. I mean, there is Disney in Europe too. Um, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty busy,
yeah.
but and hot if you're going in the summer, but it's definitely doable.
What
And
about? Sorry.
is and cruising is the other
Oh,
thing. Families are choosing to do more cruising.
yeah. What kind of advice do you have for people that want to travel alone? That they just want to get away, they just want to do their thing and be on their own and experience things on their own. What are the things you need to know before you do that?
Well, I think one of them is making sure that they're registering with the Canadian advisory so that, if anything is going to go wrong, that someone knows how to get a hold of you. And then also choose a safe destination. There's lots of safe destinations. There's some places you really shouldn't go solo. And consider going on there's lots of tour companies that cater to solo travel where you're traveling, you've got a room on your own, but you're still traveling with a like-minded group of people. You can spend time with them if you want, you don't have to, but you're going to be in a lot safer space.
Something else that's a bit of a challenge for a lot of people is packing, trying to figure out your luggage. And of course, the airlines have got all kinds of new frameworks and guidelines on luggage. What's the latest on that, and what advice do you have for people?
Well, I mean, now you can't even take a carry-on without paying for it with Air Canada. You get one personal item, but it's pretty small. So, I mean, just be very aware of what level of service on your ticket that you're buying, because people do get caught up in the way it used to be and thinking, well, no, I always get one free checked bag or one free carry-on. You don't. Now you have to really know what you're getting. And pack smart. You don't need a lot when you travel. You don't have to travel with your full wardrobe. You can mix and match and use packing cubes is a big one for me too. I find that keeps you organized and makes sure you don't overpack actually.
Yeah, because that art of packing everything into a carry-on, um, you can probably do laundry wherever you go. There's a source to do that, so it's kind of like being at home, but that's an option for you too. What's your advice on travel insurance with, again, the uncertainty in the world and things that are going on? What are suggestions you have for people when they look at that?
Well, I hate to say this, but read the fine print. I know that's really boring, but so many people think that they're covered with their credit cards or with their what various policies they might have, and find out that, sadly, that they're not covered. Especially when it comes to prior to traveling. So, the reasons that you might have to cancel a trip. That's where you're going to find, especially the credit card insurance, just does not stack up. So make sure you read your fine print, know what you're covered for, and please take it. Just take it. I think that's my biggest takeaway is get travel insurance, because we too often see people losing money because they didn't want to pay for the travel insurance.
Yeah. Okay, let's do a quick tour around here just before we wrap things up. Asia. People are going to Asia as well these days, of course. Maybe not instead of going to the States, but there are so many wonderful places there. What's popular in Asia right now?
Japan is exploding. I think it's very safe. There's so much beauty there. It's pretty much our number one destination right now to Asia. But we also sell a lot of Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, um, all beautiful places.
Yeah. Okay. South America. You don't hear a lot about people talking about, oh, yeah, I went to Argentina, I went to Colombia, Paraguay, places like that. What's in South America?
I haven't been to Paraguay yet. I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
um, well, I was down in Colombia last year. Phenomenal destination. They're really catering to a culinary sort of an aspect there, so that's a great place to go. We do a lot of Galapagos. A lot of clients go into Galapagos. Antarctica, of course, you jump off usually from Argentina. So then you can do a trip to Argentina first and check that out. But actually, South America is gorgeous. There's so much to do there, and there's for every type of traveler. There's culinary, there's adventure, there's gorgeous. If you're looking for architecture, so it's a good destination to think about. And there are some places that aren't as safe there, but there's a lot of great places that are still great.
Yeah. Antarctica is fascinating, really, because that's sort of that beauty of bleakness or wilderness, right? What do people say when they come back from that adventure?
Life changing. I mean, I testify to that because it really is. It's a life changing experience. And man, if you're going to go to Antarctica, I'd say go because it is changing. The ice is melting. It's getting more and more ships are being built to go there, purpose built to go to Antarctica, and so it's still pristine. It's still beautiful. It's still remote, but that could change.
Yeah. And I've had the advantage a number of times, or a few times anyway, to go to Africa because my amazing Amanda is South African born. But there's parts of Africa where you really shouldn't be going, right?
Sure. Yeah, of course. I mean, there are quite a few places you shouldn't be going, but there's lots of up and coming destinations in Africa that are. We've just launched a new tour to Ghana with Chef Castro,
Mm,
culinary tour to Ghana, and Ghana is it is on the list of be careful, but so are many of Morocco and Egypt, and people are always going there. But it is a very up and coming destination, and it's getting a lot of attention right now.
yeah. Well, there's a whole lot more to having a travel business than just getting people to and from. You know the experiences. That's why it's usually a good idea to consult a travel agent before you travel somewhere. And someone like Cathy Scott knows all about that. She is Departures Travel and Niche Travel, and she is the recipient of this year's Chambers Award of Distinction. Cathy, congratulations again on that. Thanks for all you do for business and for what you do for the community.
Thanks, Bruce.
And I'm Bruce Williams. I'll see you again for another Chamber Chat.